Welcome to Channel Japan. I'm Mai Demizu.
And I'm Makiko Tsuda.
Every week, we bring you the voices and views of people and businesses across Japan to uncover the latest trends in economy, culture, and even food. And these are our topics for today. As always, we have some interesting stories to share with you, so stay with us. We start things off today with Executive Insight, in which we speak with the top managers of Japan's leading companies. So, Tsuda-san, who are we hearing from today?
Today we'll be hearing from Nidec, which makes motors that are used in everything from personal computers to home appliances and car parts. Now, we've brought some of their products here today. This is one of their fans that moves with a motor. It's used in the desktop PCs, and this is a hard disk drive, and it says in small letters Nidec. One of their parts are used in this. Now, Nidec has a 70% global market share in this area, and the company founder and president is Shigenobu Nagamori, who is known in Japan for his very unique management style.
Well, I understand he's well respected by Uniqlo president Tadashi Yanai and other Japanese corporate leaders, and frequently get requested to give lecture.
Yes, that's right. Now, he's very interesting. He has lots of stories and ideas to share. And when we had the interview, he spoke almost non-stop for about an hour. And as you'll see, he is quite an individual. So take a look.
Executive Insight. Kyoto. Here, temples over 1,000 years old are not uncommon. While ancient structures abound, there is also a high-rise that soars 100 meters above ground. It is the headquarters of Nidec Corporation, established 40 years ago. Stepping inside, a small makeshift shed is on display. It is a replica of the company's office at the time of its founding. Nidec was set up by the current president, Shigenobu Nagamori, when he was just 28 years old. He now oversees a business that generates nearly $7 billion in annual revenue and employs 160,000 people.
Why did you focus on motors? Was it because of their wide application?
At the time of our establishment, Japanese homes typically had only 3 to 5 motors. At the same time, homes in the US already had 60 motors. I was convinced that age would also arrive in Japan. In fact, the potential demand was some 10 times as high. I felt there was a big opportunity in motors. Since then, that's been our focus. We've become the world's biggest company that makes a variety of motor-related products. Every month, we ship 200 million motors around the world. We have a vast range of products from extremely small motors to those that are several times the height of a person.
Nidec expanded its business during Japan's rapid economic growth period and is continually improving its motor technology. They have a broad lineup of products from those in home appliances to small motors embedded in mobile phones. Their core products are motors for computers. Inside this computer, there's one for the cooling fan. Motors also run the hard disk drive. The inside of a hard disk drive is usually hidden in a case, so we decided to take a look. This is the biggest data recovery center in Japan. Here, they help customers recover data by repairing hard disk drives that have been damaged by fire or water. The devices are first disassembled. The company has over 5,000 different models in stock, from the latest ones to those no longer on the market. Parts from the same model are used to replace the broken device.
みんな四角い箱で同じに見えるんですけども、実はそうでもないんです。で、同じメーカーさんの 同じ型名であっても、ロットによってですね違ったりとか、そういうことがありますので、かなりの数の部品をですねやっぱり持ってないとこの作業はできないです。
As shown, hard disk drives contain a wide range of components. So how are the motors made by Nidec embedded into these devices? This is a US-made hard disk drive. This device stores data through the precise rotation of a disk. At its core is a small motor. We asked the manager in charge of repairs about motors that he comes across often.
昔としたらここのモーターはやはり日本製のニデックで、今も世界シェアのほとんどはニデックですね。
Among the numerous parts made by various firms, he says motors alone are primarily from Nidec. This is Nidec's factory in Thailand. Small precision motors are made in 20 such locations around the world. By adding value to their motors, the company has been able to keep rivals at bay.
Do you plan to limit your business to just motors?
No, we focus on motors and products that use motors. For example, the inside of robots is composed of motors. In the past, the primary industry of Japan was steel. After that came semiconductors. I believe that starting from 2020, motors will emerge as the primary industry. Going back to robots, humanoids will become increasingly prevalent in society. Nursing care robots are all made of motors on the inside. Without motors, none of that is possible.
Another area that the company is focusing on is cars. Car motors are being seen as a growth industry due to the spread of electric vehicles. With motor technology playing a central role in this field, does the company envision eventually manufacturing an entire car?
I get the impression that you're putting effort into motors for cars. Do you think it's an area that will continue growing?
Yes, I believe so. In order for us to survive as a component maker, we want to build a motor that no one else in the world can and sell that to car companies. We'd like cars to have a sticker that says Nidec inside on the front. If we could do that, it won't be necessary to manufacture a finished product. By putting our sticker on finished products, we'll have immediate brand recognition. So there's no need to limit ourselves just because we're a parts maker. I believe we have the potential to become the world's most powerful company in this field.
It's not just value-added products, is it?
Well, for example, we also make motors for fans. These motors are the cheapest to produce. For such low-tech products, we'll market a compact, high-tech motor that's energy efficient. To say, we'll let others handle low-tech products, or that we only deal in high-value added products, is mistaken from a business standpoint. If we let rivals take over low-tech products, they will move into higher value-added products. We have to dominate not just the high end, but the low end, or else we'll lose to the competition.
Well, Tsuda-san, I'm starting to understand why many corporate managers want to hear what he has to say. Well, he may come off as being over-ambitious at the beginning, but he has ability to put his big ideas into a realistic plan and implement them and to achieve results. So I understand why he's so respected.
I agree. Mr. Nagamori often says big ideas eventually shape themselves into a practical dream.
I see. Well, I can understand what he says, but at the same time, many Japanese part manufacturers don't have the luxury of being so bullish about the future, especially with the situation they're in.
Yes, that's true. Now, I want to show you something. This is how much Nidec's net profit for the latest fiscal year fell.
Wow, 80% drop.
Yes, that's right. Now, there are several factors behind the plunge, but one of them is that the sales of hard disk drive motors have plunged, especially that are used for personal computers. As you must know, the sales of PC themselves have been on the decline since alternatives have been taking over, such as smartphones and tablet devices. And in fact, Mr. Nagamori did say that he foresaw this trend coming, and his explanation for the poor financial results was that he did expect this to happen, but PC shakeout came out 2 years earlier than he expected.
Well, this PC market does seem to be changing every day, so I can see why it would be so difficult to make accurate predictions.
I agree. The market is volatile. But then again, the executives of manufacturers can't just simply take a wait-and-see attitude if they're to survive. And Mr. Nagamori as well has already announced a strategy to stage a comeback. So he tells us about his plans as well as the company's initiatives in Asia. So take a look.
April 24th. On this day, Mr. Nagamori is heading to his company's annual earnings conference. The downturn in business has put Mr. Nagamori in a tight spot.
We've done a full structural reform. We've emptied out our bladder.
With his opening words, Mr. Nagamori stirs up the crowd of journalists and analysts. He promises a sharp recovery.
We can offset the downturn in sales of hard disk-related products.
Mr. Nagamori is putting his hopes on applications of product technology that the company has built up. For businesses suffering a sales decline, he quickly decides to shrink them to stem the bleeding.
It must be necessary to read the trends, not just for the components you make, but the market for final products as well.
That's right. In particular, businesses that used to bring in big profits fell drastically in the past year. That's why in the last fiscal year, we immediately reorganized factories by reducing excess equipment and revamped our profit structure.
You slashed production by 30% in some places, so how do you make those adjustments?
Our customers frequently ask us why we close factories so quickly. Presidents of typical companies want to keep the status quo. They don't want to go as far as closing a factory. So they're forced to carry out a restructuring year in and year out. That's why I clean up the entire balance sheet with one sweep. By doing so, we can move in a new direction. For some reason, Japanese companies tend to muddle along. That's what's wrong. We've changed our business portfolio countless times in our history. Before HDDs, we had a floppy disk business. We've come this far by adapting. You could say that migrating well into new businesses is like a snake that sheds dead skin. If you don't do it, you die.
The seeds of another new business are about to bear fruit. The COO, Hiroshi Kobe, shows us. He's been with Mr. Nagamori since the company's founding 40 years ago. What he pulls out is the latest ultra-compact motor. The core has a radius of just 3 millimeters. The biggest feature is that it spins without making any noise. With conventional motors, the shaft rotates to turn the outer section. But with this, the shaft is coated in oil, so the oil itself rotates. Since there is no contact, wear is minimal. It is the ultimate motor derived from decades of continual improvements.
これをですね、これじっくり見ればね、多くのビジネスチャンスがあるわけですよね。じゃあ音が出るんだったら音の出ないファン作ったらいいね。じゃあこのハードディスクドライブというのは音が出ないよね。じゃあそこの技術を使ってファンにやれるわ。 新しいものができるんだよというような形からですねどんどん派生してくるというね。だからいかにこの要素技術アプリケーション技術これがですね、必要だということでね我々エンジニアもですねもう日夜アプリケーションアプリケーションアプリケーション。
What's more, the company set up a new section to strengthen marketing, which had long been a weakness.
Hi, that the team is Nadeshiko. The Nadeshiko means that the Japanese traditional women. And the Nadeshiko team, the customer is especially for the European and American customer, and of course Asian customer as well.
The Nadeshiko section is a small elite unit of 6 people. They fly around the world to meet clients to find out their requirements and get direct feedback. The information collected is compiled in a report every time and shared with the entire company. They not only report on technical aspects, but are required to always bring back pictures taken with local staff and snapshots of food. The company says this helps to enhance communication with colleagues.
開発が男性メインになりますので、女性の目線で、伝えることによりましてお客様に対するレスポンスも非常にきめ細やかになるというふうに考えております。
Next to this new section is an empty space. With overseas business expected to grow, it was set aside with the view of expanding the team in the future.
You've pursued business overseas since the founding of the company, and already more than half of your sales are in the Asian region. So naturally, there is a strong effort to develop overseas markets.
We've been saying that we want to be in 75 countries by 2030. Those 75 countries are where the population is over 10 million. We need to go into all of those countries considering the scale of the markets. The issue for us is how to operate as a global company.
Mr. Nagamori has a management philosophy he has never veered from.
In the beginning, it starts with imitation. From there, you continue polishing that technology until imitation gives birth to innovation. That's how we've come this far. The most important thing is to work as hard as you can. There's nothing else. People will betray each other, and countries will betray their citizens. But hard work will never betray a person. I believe that effort will undoubtedly build up a person's future. To create a new business, and for a country to support people who create new businesses. I believe those are the foundations to promote further development across Asia.
Mr. Nagamori's hope is that development in Asia will become a growth engine for his motors.
Mitsui & Company.
The view is almost like peering down on the star-filled night sky at your feet. It's the city at night seen from a height of 450 meters. Make unforgettable memories. City lights stretching for as far as the eye can see. Find it at Tokyo Skytree.
From the train to the sky with Spacia. More than you expect.
Where we see nothing, there could be anything. Panasonic is putting the endless energy of the sun to work. Generating, storing, and managing energy efficiently. Helping power our daily lives.
Panasonic.
You're watching Channel Japan. In our next segment, we show you an episode from Popular Economics program. Today, it's from TV Tokyo's World Business Satellite. So, Utsuda-san, what's the topic today?
Yes, today's topic is something called tourism trains.
Well, I see many of our viewers aren't familiar with this term, but in Japan, the combinations of tourism and railway is gaining quite a lot of attraction.
Yes, you're right. Now, in Japan, the recent weakening of the yen has made traveling abroad more expensive. So many people are opting to go to domestic locations for vacation, and that's why these tourism trains are becoming popular. So have a look.
On a weekend morning, a blue train arrives at Shin Yatsushiro Station in Kumamoto Prefecture. This is the Orange Restaurant Express, which began operations in March. The floor and walls use local wood, creating a homely atmosphere. The train runs a distance of 120 kilometers between Shin Yatsushiro and Sendai. The main feature of this railway is composed of 2 restaurant carriages, it is Japan's only gourmet tourism train. At each stop, local specialties are brought to the table, allowing passengers to enjoy foods in season. What's more, when it reaches a scenic spot, the train slows down and an explanation is provided over the loudspeakers. About a third of the journey is on the sea coast. The views are said to be the biggest attraction. As the train approaches another station, at 3 stations along the way, the train stops for about 10 minutes, allowing the passengers to buy local specialties.
もともと地元の方でない方がほとんど乗ってらっしゃると思うんですけども、ここでですね、アクネの商品を紹介することによって、やはりアクネっていうのが少しばかりでも紹介の場になればと思っています。
At shortly past noon, lunchboxes made by a well-known restaurant along the route are brought aboard. Everything is made with local ingredients, such as akune-raised black pork. The cost for this experience is about $130, including food and drinks. The Hisatsu Orange Railway has been seeing passenger numbers decline due to the shrinking local population. So they spent $500,000 on refurbishing the carriages. The idea was to attract tourists while still serving as the legs of the local community.
このオレンジ食堂に乗っていただいて、沿線で美味しいものを食べていただいて、またオレンジ鉄道に乗ってもらう。
This year, similar tourism trains have been established across the country. On March 21st, Kintetsu Corporation launched the Shimakaze train. East Japan Railway, too, is planning to begin operations of its Tohoku Emotion sightseeing line. A tailwind for this tourism train boon is the weakening yen. Many people who had opted to vacation abroad are now starting to consider domestic destinations.
9月まではですね、昨年料金を作ってますので、決して上がっていないんですが、高くなってるんじゃないかなというイメージを持っている方とか、現地のお買い物がですね、安くならないというイメージを持った方がいらっしゃって。
In contrast, there's been a revival in domestic travel. During a week-long holiday in May this year, reservations were up 10% annually. Tourism trains are said to be a new engine of growth.
従来は鉄道は移動手段だったんですが、東北新幹線のはやて等が走り出しましたからですね、鉄道が移動手段から観光手段になってきたんですね。
JR Kyushu, which started the boom, will launch this train. Japan's first so-called cruise train will run across the Kyushu region for 3 days and 4 nights. The design of the 7-star room was the work of Eiji Mitooka.
これが最高の一番贅沢豪華な部屋で、こういったガラスフィックスの展望室を持った部屋ですね。で中はこういうふうにこうやってガラスフィックスがあって、で丸見えですよ中ね。ちょっと恥ずかしいですよね。
With paper sliding doors and tatami mats, the room has a decidedly Japanese ambiance.
このステンドグラスを鉄道車両を作るときに一番厄介な木とか天然素材ですね、紙とか、それを使うことによってお客さんのその心地よさを追求する。
Currently under development, the carriage will be connected to the rear end of the train. There will be only 2 deluxe suites on one carriage, costing about $5,500 per person. Though expensive, tickets for the rest of the year have sold out. On April 10th, a lottery was held for tickets for the second season between January and March next year. In the first season, there were 7 applicants for 1 space. This time, it was oversubscribed by 9 times.
豊かな贅沢な未だかつてない旅、採算が取れるとか採算が取れないとかそういうことじゃなくて、面白いものっていうか欲しいものをあったらいいと思うものを作っていこうっていう、それがやっぱ一番のロマンなんで。
The pursuit of an ideal train. Mr. Mitooka's designs can also be found here. This is a new tourism train launched in April by Kita-Kinki Tango Railway, based in the northern part of Kyoto. The train journeys through major sites in the Tango region. They showed us the inside of the carriages.
この青松は定期の列車でも使うということもありまして、つり革を作っていただいてます。ここにも青松というロゴを入れていただいているわけでありますが。
With tickets costing the same as the regular line, the Aomatsu has been used to display and promote local crafts. The Akamatsu, meanwhile, has a capacity for just 35 passengers. Both carriages are over 20 years old and were refurbished at a cost of about $400,000.
サービス乗務員がお客様に物品販売ですとか応対をさせていただくという場所です。
The Akamatsu and Aomatsu both employ customer service staff. On this day, employees in charge of announcements on another tourism train are here for training.
横一文字に見えます。白い砂浜と青い松並木が天橋立です。来ております。
The announcer introduces the view with impeccable timing.
景色が過ぎてしまってからね、話したんではね、全然ダメですし、あったようにこう喋るだけじゃないんで、もう大変だと思います。
This train was adopted as part of the tour of Amano Hashidate, one of the so-called three views of Japan, in the hopes of drawing more visitors.
観光型車両を導入して多くのお客様をこちらに誘客をしていきたい。また地元のお客様にもぜひマイレール意識というのもさらに高めていただくためにもこういう車両を活用したいな。
From a mode of transport to a means of sightseeing, trains are starting to lay down tracks across Japan.
Well, over $5,000 for a 3-night, 4-day tour on the railway. It's quite expensive.
It is, isn't it? But then again, it's surprisingly many people actually opt to take this tour, so it's very popular.
But then again, there's a certain attraction to traveling by train, especially in Japan.
I agree. Now, the first railway in Japan was established in 1872, and it was just half a century after England put the world's first full-scale steam locomotive in operation. And subsequently, there was a boom in railroad construction in Japan, and Japan now has one of the biggest train networks in the world. Now, there are a few number ones that Japan's train networks have. Let me show you some. 23.5 billion.
Yes.
It's the number of passengers carried by trains every year.
Well, that comes out to about 200 train rides per person annually.
You're
probably.
good at math. It does, doesn't it?
Wow.
That's quite a lot of train rides, I must say. And there's a connection with the next figure, which is 28.7%. Now, it's the proportion of trains among all forms of transport used by people in Japan.
Well, I'm surprised, even with all that cars on the road, nowadays that train still accounts for nearly 30% of transport.
But then again, it still can be much more convenient when you're in the city area.
Yes.
To avoid traffic. Now, the next number is also related to why train usage is so common, 90.3%. Can you guess what it is?
90.3, that's a quite high number. I have no clue.
It's difficult, isn't it? Now, this is how often trains run on schedule in Japan.
Wow.
So you could say they're pretty accurate.
Yes.
And the number is actually much higher for Shinkansen bullet trains. The rate goes up to 96%.
Wow, very punctual. I understand this is one of the reasons why Japanese railways are generating interest around the world.
Yes, definitely. Many countries in Asia are in the midst of improving their infrastructure, and Japan, China, South Korea, France, Canada, and others are competing to provide technology and expertise.
Well, trains are definitely a big market that should attract a lot more attention in coming years. Well, after the break, we'll put the spotlight on Japan's unique beverage market. Stay tuned.
Traditional,
Consistent.
precise,
Speedy.
professional, innovative,
Polite. Quality from Japan. The best of business in Asia. SMBC. Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation.
Mitsubishi Electric is helping to change the environment for the better around the world.
Green subway systems in India.
Green air conditioning systems in Singapore.
Echo changes for a greener tomorrow. Mitsubishi Electric.
How do we build sustainability into our relationship with Mother Earth? That's Kaiteki, Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings.
Hey, look at this. They're building a huge steel plant with Kobelco technology.
Kobelco? Never heard of it.
It's Japanese. They can make iron with incredible speed. What once took 8 hours can be done in just 10 minutes.
Wow, the Japanese are incredible. The country of karate.
Ha! 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 Karate has nothing to do with it.
True.
The talk of the world. Kobelco.
Sasuke, a new type of sports entertainment program conquering the world.
It's about human achievement and people's passions, and I think that relates to almost everybody.
From Japan to the world, Ninja Warrior, Tokyo Broadcasting System.
Welcome back to Channel Japan. Next, we'll be taking a look at initiatives among individuals to invest in and generate alternative energy sources.
Kamisu, Ibaraki Prefecture. Driving along a coastal road, massive windmills come into view. This area, with its vast sandy beaches facing the Pacific Ocean, is dotted with numerous wind turbines.
風車の足元に来ました。で、こちらにはですね、ご覧のようにたくさんの方々の名前が刻まれています。で、実はこのお名前、この風車を建設するために出資をした一般市民の方のお名前なんです。
Called Citizen Wind Turbines, they were built at a cost of $3.5 million, of which half came from local residents. Currently, there are 14 such citizen-invested facilities operating nationwide, mainly in the northeastern region. Helping to finance these projects is Hokkaido Green Fund, a non-profit organization in Sapporo, Hokkaido. The first citizen wind turbine began operations 12 years ago. Since then, the fund has collected nearly $24 million from 4,000 individual investors.
当時はですね、まだ太陽光にしても非常にコストが高かったし、それから長期間にわたって買い取るという制度がなかったんですね。我々のようなその市民事業として、大手じゃなくてですね、市民事業としてやっぱりやれたのが風車だ。
Under their program, investors contribute capital, which is loaned to a power generation company to build facilities. The power generation company makes money by selling its electricity to a utility and pays back the principal plus interest to the fund. The fund, meanwhile, distributes a portion of the capital and a dividend to investors once a year. If there are problems in generating power, investors face the risk of having their dividends cancelled. But they say such a situation has never happened with citizen wind turbines. Asked why they invested in the fund,
自分のお金が何に使われて役に立つ人のためになるような使われ方をして、なおかつ配当金がちゃんとあるっていうことは素晴らしいなと思って。
The company says interest in building wind turbines has grown since the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. But construction can take time.
風車の場合ですと3年から長い時は5年ぐらいかかりますので、なかなかすぐに皆さんのご希望に添えられないというのが。
Uozu, Toyama Prefecture. There's a power generation facility here that is also citizen invested.
ではこちらの方が発電所の入り口になります。
This facility is called a small hydropower plant, which doesn't require building a large-scale dam, but instead uses natural river gradients and flow to produce electricity.
こちらの下が取水口になります。
The water collected is carried through an aqueduct 3 kilometers downstream to the power plant. The water flow picks up speed en route and turns the turbines. Small hydropower generators are said to hold big possibilities for Toyama Prefecture, where there are abundant water resources such as from snowmelt. But a major stumbling block had been the lack of funds.
新規で発電所を作るというのは全く無謀なことだとさえ言われたぐらいでありまして、当然地元の金融機関とか銀行さんは全くお金とか貸してくれず、発電所は担保にならんと言われましたんで。
So they decided to utilize a citizens fund, the first time for a small hydropower project. Nakano Ward, Tokyo. This company manages a fund for natural energy-related businesses. For example, individuals can invest in a small hydropower plant in Uozu for $5,000 per lot. The principal will be paid back over 7 years after operations begin, with an annual dividend of up to $150. Although subscriptions were initially slow, inquiries jumped tenfold after the 2011 earthquake and tsunami.
ファンドという形で日本中の方に知っていただくことで市民出資という形で広く普及に協力していけたらと貢献していけたらと思っております。
すみません、こんにちは。はい、いらっしゃいませ。
This is the Oguma family living in central Uozu. She is one of the investors in the small hydropower plant. Ms. Oguma attended a lecture organized by the fund and learned about small hydropower plants. Impressed, she decided to make an investment. On the contract is the name of her grandson.
この子のためにというか、残していってもいいかなと。未来の子供たちのためにというか。
Iwaki, Fukushima Prefecture.
上出来素晴らしい。
ありがとうございます。
Morihiko Shimamura is building a solar power generation facility on his own in the hopes of revitalizing disaster-hit regions through new energy sources. He borrowed about $140,000 from local financial institutions to cover the cost of installing solar panels. Short of funds, he's enlisted the help of volunteers to do everything from cutting trees and wiring the panels. The facility will soon begin generating electricity. So what's Mr. Shimamura's purpose?
パネルを張った下の部分に畑を作って、そこの上にパネルを置いて、畑と太陽光による二毛作油のこの地域で、先進的にできれば。
Since the earthquake and tsunami, Mr. Shimamura has been working with non-profit organizations involved in growing organic cotton on abandoned farmland to aid in the recovery of the region. The cotton is turned into products such as dolls by evacuees as a way to develop a local industry. And the electricity for people in the area will come from natural energy sources. Mr. Shimamura says that is his ideal. While motivations vary, the growing interest in citizens' energy initiatives may spark a change in the national discussion and policies on power generation.
Next, we take a look at canned coffee, which has become a staple in Japan. But Utsuda-san, I know that this is an extremely competitive market, right?
You could definitely say that. In Japan, about 600 different types of canned coffee are sold every year. And with all that competition, it's a real challenge to develop a new product that'll turn the heads of consumers.
So take a look.
March. A meeting room in central Tokyo.
こんばんは。日本コカ・コーラでコーヒー担当しております新田と言います。よろしくお願いします。
In the room are women in their 20s and 30s.
今年の5月に出そうとしている、新しいコーヒーの、新製品について、ちょっとご意見を聞かせていただければなと。
Unmarked bottles of coffee are handed out. It appears to be cafe au lait, but
本当は甘くないと思って。苦いです。すっきりしてて美味しいです。
a coffee that everyone in the room agrees is not sweet. It is a new product called Luana that the company will start selling in May. It's a non-sweet coffee with milk.
缶コーヒーあんまり飲まれてない方々っていうような人たちに、今回、そういう人たちにも満足してもらえるような、製品というものをちょっと開発していきたいな。
It's targeted at consumers who don't typically drink canned coffee, in particular, women. The market for canned coffee in Japan has been virtually flat in recent years. What's more, 80% of buyers are men. To unearth new demand, the industry has been undertaking a variety of efforts. Our cameras were allowed to see the company's product development process.
今こちら何をされているところなんですか？豆の個性があるんですけども、その味を味わいながら、ブレンドの考案をしていくという作業をこちらではしています。
He's carrying out a process called cupping, in which the ground beans are mixed with hot water and tasted.
これですか？
We sampled a new product that was created here.
ああ、これいわゆるなんていうかお店で出るようなアイスコーヒーをやっぱこう想像できますね。
It's made from a blend of 4 types of beans. Among them is Kona coffee from Hawaii, said to be the core ingredient.
酸味が強い豆として知られてるんですけども、その、粉を入れることによって、味に複雑さを出すと。
But taste isn't the only reason for using Kona coffee.
ハワイのビーチのリゾートでもう何も考えずにくつろいでる時間だったりっていうのはすごいみんなが経験したいリラックスの瞬間なんじゃないか。
Luana in the Hawaiian language means to relax. Their aim is to use Kona coffee from Hawaii to create a product with an entirely different image.
ハワイ島にやってきました。ルアーナに使われている粉コーヒー、その粉コーヒーとは一体どんなものなのか取材してきます。
This is the Kona district on the Big Island of Hawaii. It is a small resort area surrounded by nature.
こちらはハワイの地元の人もよく集まるというカフェなんです。ちょっとこうウクレレを弾いている方もいていい感じですね。では行ってみましょう。Hello, 100% Kona coffee?
Yeah, it's called from a company called Buddhist Cup, and it comes from a farm actually not too far down the road from here. We think this is the best.
I see. Okay. ベストコーヒーだそうです。
Only beans grown in the Kona district can be called Kona coffee.
非常に苦味が少なめなんですが、酸味を感じるコーヒーですね。
In this place, Kona coffee is a staple drink.
Kona coffee is sort of the essence of our small island here.
We visited the farm where the beans are grown. The trees are just starting to produce berries.
すみません、こんにちは。こんにちは。
There we see Mr. Nita, in charge of the Luana brand. With him is
So therefore, if you look at this brand,
a magazine editor. Suddenly, there's a commotion.
please come here.
あ、かわいい。かわいいとこついかわいいですよね。
We call them Kona snow because during the flowering time, all the flowers come out in segments, and a branch like this.
粉スノーみたいなのってすごい共感してくれるんですかね。
南国なんだけどスノーっていうそのなんか驚きとかとともに伝えたくなるようなエピソードとして響くんじゃないかなと思います。
Until now, the company has marketed the taste of its coffee to men. They are now trying to understand what would be most effective with women consumers.
今までの缶コーヒーの概念はもう捨てて、新しいことをやっていこうと。
概念を捨てるっていうのはかなり勇気がいることだと思うんですけども、それでもやっぱりここまでやらなきゃいけないっていうのはどうしてなんですか？
そうですね、やっぱりそのいろんな選択肢を与える、で新しい選択肢を与えるっていうことで、今まで飲んでこなかった人たちがコーヒーを飲み始めるかもしれないし、
Even as the market matures, there is no shortage of new entrants. In one section of Shinagawa Station during the morning rush hour,
お腹がへこむっていうのを期待してますけど。
缶コーヒーあんまり飲まないんですけど、ちょっとこれは興味があって。
being handed out is a coffee launched by Kao in April.
ヘルシアコーヒーの開発には10年の長い期間を費やしました。
Classified as a special health drink, it is said to help burn fat.
普段からそのコーヒーを飲まれているお客様っていうところは決まった商品を結構定期的に飲むというのがあるんですが、そこに参入していくためにやはり新しい付加価値っていうところを加えた商品でないとなかなか難しい。
A variety of products are being developed at Kao's research facility. For this product, they discovered a way to prevent the dissolution of chlorogenic acid, the key ingredient said to help burn fat.
風味と、機能の両立っていうのが非常に課題で、本当にこれは商品化できるのかなっていう不安もありながら。
On this day, the development team was carrying out a certain research project.
風味特徴を良くするという改良のサンプルを何点か、7点用意しましたので。
They compare 7 types of coffee made using different roasts and blends. The product has only been on the market for a short while, but they've already found areas for improvement.
苦味とコクの部分が若干低下しているかなと。ただバランスとしては香りが良くなっているので、
鼻抜けの余韻っていう部分がアップしているので、今のものに対しての改良として候補かなと。
Taste tests are held every day to make improvements.
普段の生活リズムの中でこれを、もう日常的に飲み続けていただくというところがこの、コーヒー市場に残っていくポイントかなと、勝ち続けていきたいなと思っております。
Even as the market struggles to grow, canned coffee makers are brewing up new concoctions to perk up demand.
With so much competition, coming up with new hit products seems to be next to impossible.
You could definitely say that. Now, according to one research firm, canned coffee in Japan is a $7.5 billion market, and they account for about 15% of all cold beverages sold.
I see. So we have some in the studio, and these are all types you can find in a typical Japanese convenience store. And these are just a slice of the market.
Yes, they're just a slice. There are hundreds more. Now, mainly there are two battlegrounds for these canned coffees, and one is convenience stores. And they have limited space, so they're very strict about how they select products that will sell or are likely to sell.
Also, I imagine that means beverage makers need to keep introducing new products and do a lot for marketing so that convenience stores carry their product.
Exactly. And the other battleground is vending machines. As we have some pictures over here. According to one study, vending machines account for about 70% of canned coffee sales. And the machines themselves are usually installed by beverage makers. So there's a lot of competition in terms of where to actually locate those machines.
Well, it seems to be that this is one market that's not going to cool down anytime soon. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Channel Japan. We have much more in store for you, so join us again next week.
Changing emissions from copper refineries into fertilizer. That is where Sumitomo Chemical got its start. For 100 years, we've been delivering the power of chemistry around the world. And we will continue to help make the world a better place for the next 100 years and more.
My parents work at a really great company, which makes cool computers and LCD TVs. Not only that, they build elevators for skyscrapers and zooming fast bullet trains. My mom designs the company's CT scan systems, which spot diseases. My dad develops power generation systems so people will have plenty of electricity. The company where my parents work is Toshiba.
Has anybody finished doing their pictures?
I have.
All around the world, Toshiba technology is hard at work, bringing smarter, faster, more sustainable development to life.
When I grow up, I want to work for people.
For a growing future, Toshiba.
ยังจำได้หรือเปล่านะเรื่องต่างๆที่เกิดขึ้นตอนวาดรูปนี้แต่ถ้ารถยนต์ในฝันของฉันมีจริงฉันคงจะมีความสุขมากเลย
Asia, the engine of the global economy. Japan, a regional powerhouse. And now, direct from Japan, economic news with a global impact in Chinese and English, delivered by Nikkei. Read the future, lead the economy. Nikkei, Japan's leading media for business.